Welcome to the JD Bunkis podcast. We're going to do some Raptors talk today with Blake Murphy. We're also going to talk about the Blue Jays. But yeah, the Raptors season actually starts today. This just in. For everyone that basically isn't on the beat of the Toronto Raptors. But first, I was talking to Blake right before we started the show about how I'm starting to see World Series preview stuff. And of course, right? Of course, Bo Bichette might come back. The Dodgers set their starters for the World Series. It's like Snell. Yeah, man, they're nasty. They're a nasty bunch. You've got analysts making predictions. I've seen multiple Twitter and Instagram accounts where the heavy hitters now, the people that don't spend a ton of time talking about the Toronto team, all of a sudden having big Toronto conversations. And obviously, I don't actually resent that, but there is a small part of me that seeing it goes, I don't need to see this right now. Pass. Move it down the line. I got a couple of days here. Let me just bask for a moment in what just happened. Because, so they tell you one of the most important things, you start to do therapy, and they tell you got to take stock. It's a really important thing to do. And I talk about it with people here in our industry all the time because it's so quickly, it moves so fast. It's just, you do a show, you finish the show, there's no time to ever even celebrate for a second any of the work that you put in. And I think that we're kind of moving that way as a society in general. But listen, I'm not trying to get too deep on this. It's just a little sports chat. But the Blue Jays are going to the World Series, and they had one of the most entertaining games I've ever seen. And one of my favorite things about games like that is it's the 24 hours after. It's the 48 hours after. And this one, I'm just trying to extend it a little bit more because it's been so spectacular. Again, that is... It's weird to say this, but being there and watching George Springer hit that home run is one of the most exhilarating moments of my life. I had full body shakes for about 2 minutes after where I was like, do I need to sit down? Am I going to faint? That's the way that it was feeling and trying to soak in kind of everything that was in the surroundings. And so I just wanted to start the show with just a little bit of reflecting, which was what I've been doing pretty much the last 24 hours, is thinking about how these guys got here and what an incredible journey it is for so many of them. I'm thinking about the front office that came in under some of the most difficult circumstances from a narrative standpoint as you possibly could. The introduction to this front office was these guys basically took hometown Canadian hero Alex Anthopoulos into a back room and read him his Miranda rights. They berated him and told him what a stupid idiot failure he was for creating the best run of baseball that we had seen in decades. And then there were the failures, and there was the constant hammering of it's time to change, it's time to change. I've said it a million times on my shows. I never thought Atkins was going to make it this far. I thought after the Barrios decision that it was over for him. But ultimately, these guys ended up building a baseball team that's in the World Series. And they also convinced ownership to open up their pocketbooks in a way that was going to be something they could accomplish. I think they're fourth in MLB payroll right now, something that I think doesn't get enough credit. It really doesn't. It just doesn't. This is one of the biggest complaints about this division in the past was playing in the American League East was the Blue Jays were never going to be able to compete with the Yankees and the Red Sox. And now I kind of look at it and go, I would almost be surprised if the Red Sox started outspending the Blue Jays. That's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing to say. And we we just kind of glossed over it here. We were just kind of like, oh, thanks for the money, daddy. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal that the Blue Jays are the spenders that they are. I keep thinking about, again, Vladdy, and I've already said this before, but it's just like the prodigal son, the guy that was the prince that was promised, coming through in huge moments. The guy who had basically done everything on his resume except for show up in the big moments. And here he is dominating in the biggest moments and coming through on the biggest stage, fulfilling the destiny of this player in getting to the World Series. I think about the big ticket free agent that kind of started all of this spending. Oh, the Blue Jays have money now. They're going to spend money now. And they get George Springer. And people go, they got George Springer, but they gave him too much length on the contract. They had to give him the extra year that everyone was dreading. This is the big ticket free agent playing in the part of the deal where you're not supposed to be delivering the same way. And he just delivered what is the biggest moment in the franchise's history since Joe Carter. That's pretty good. I'm thinking about the starting pitching staff, the veterans in the pitching staff, some of the guys that would just do anything to win. The Max Scherzer performance, the Bassett coming out of the bullpen in the 8th inning and turning into the world's greatest setup man, Kevin Gossman and the gum throwing, and the attitude that those three guys bring to this team. The veteran presence that the three of those guys have imparted on this group. The intensity of those three guys in comparison to a lot of the other fun-loving dudes that are in that clubhouse and the way that it balances out and has made this perfect formula. I think about Ernie Clement, a cast-off, who now has the most hits out of all active players in Major League Baseball through his first 11 postseason games. Ernie Clement, a guy who last spring we were going, maybe he'll make the team, but he probably won't last very long. I think about the rookie, the college kid who people said, yeah, maybe he'll be here. And then he just went through every single rung of minor league baseball and arrives and delivers some of the most clutch moments that we've ever seen from a starting pitcher, like Marco Estrada level clutch from a child, And he has completely changed the ceiling of what this team can do in the postseason. I think about Jeff Hoffman, the closer that nobody wanted in the offseason. And then nobody in this fan base wanted, closing out big games, going to a CS, giving you 5 innings pitched, no earned runs, 10 strikeouts, including striking out the side to advance the Blue Jays to the World Series. So, yeah, there can continue to be some appreciation for the moment before I enter the sweat that is the World Series. Blake Murphy, host of Jays Talk Plus, and at some point, the Raptors show. Some point, someday there will be a Raptors show again. Josie, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? That was really great.
Thanks.
That was good. Here's my only Raptors note as far as the Jays are concerned and the overlap is concerned right now. Raptors changing the start time of the opener to 6:30 on Friday. Tonight is obviously the season opener, but Friday's the home opener. They're going to do it at 6:30 tip-off, and they're going to play the World Series games on the video boards after the game at Scotiabank Arena. So
just play it during.
Yes. You'd have to imagine it goes up. Well, I guess halftime will be just a little before 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, after the game, they'll have the game on the video board.
I think the Leafs are doing the same thing.
I'm a sucker for that stuff. When the other teams get in on the playoff run and they're trying to get the, accommodating, yes, but like the Leafs playing the Blue Jays game at intermission. So I'm a sucker for stuff like that.
Yeah. I would be more of a sucker for the Leafs playing the Blue Jays game during the intermissions and afterwards if it wasn't the loudest that it gets when that hockey team is playing in years. When it's a different entertainment product that's on the Jumbotron. Yeah. Anyway, I want to start with that, though, is like I said, I do have maybe a World Series look-ahead question for you, but I don't really want to spend much time on it yet. That's going to be tomorrow's problem or Friday's problem when they're actually playing games for me. But is there something in particular that you have been reflecting on as you're as you're doing what I know all of us do, which is consuming all of this content and going through all the different edits of the George Springer home run, of which there are many, the crowd reactions, all of this. Is there something in particular that has stuck with you over the last 24 hours?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff, right? Yeah. Like you just laid out some of it. It's, I don't know, man. I think that visually, the thing that has stuck with me the most is Jeff Hoffman gets that strikeout and everyone mobs the pitcher and catcher, and Ernie Clement is walking off third base by himself. And he's doing a slow walk, and you can tell he is like overcome and like is trying to hold it together. And everyone else is starting to celebrate over there. And then Bo and Santander, and then I think Jimenez joins. Like they start a second huddle because Ernie is like so overcome on his own, walking off of third base. And like you just laid out the Ernie Clement case, like a cast-off guy, a guy who you ask any of the 30, 35 guys who are still around that team right now because they've got all these extra guys and injured guys and stuff like that. You ask Dan and Buck, the people who are on that plane, you ask anyone. when you talk about the cultural difference and the chemistry that this group has, some of the pieces are the same as the last couple of years for sure, but Ernie's the guy that gets mentioned first
Yep.
from a glue guy chemistry perspective. Obviously, look, they don't get
He's the
Vladimir.
guy that everybody likes on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is about to make $500 million. George Springer is the big headline contract. Max Scherzer's going to the Hall of Fame. Like the guys who you absolutely have to have delivered all through this playoff run. But to have a guy who was a waiver cast off by Cleveland and Oakland and who, like you said, wasn't supposed to be on the roster, like it's such a, to use a wire term for the wire, like all the pieces matter. Nathan Lucas, minor league free agent signing, who was going to retire if he didn't make the team.
Which is insane.
All those little things matter, like little tweaks with Trey Savage, hiring David Popkins at this point in time.
I will say, too, I'll take a big L on the David Popkins thing just from this standpoint was when it was the constant criticism of Guillermo Martinez, I was annoyed by that. I thought it was just the lamest excuse for this baseball team. And I'm not saying that this was all Popkins, obviously. Like, you got to give credit to the players. But I was always told by every major league player that I had talked to about hitting coaches was that, yeah, they're a consultant, they're a soundboard,
Yeah.
and it maybe matters at most 1%. And so I just felt like it was out of whack narratively. But I went, who cares? Who cares? Who cares?
Well,
Who
we
cares?
also like the narratives overlap, right?
mattered.
Where like Matt Haig was an assistant hitting coach last year, and he had all the Buffalo guys in AAA, and they all credited him. And like, it's good to share the credit and stuff like that. David Popkins didn't like fundamentally change all of these hitters or anything,
but it's pretty clear that he matters. And like
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it because he was at the Leafs game last night and he was sitting there with Straw and Heineman. And
nice.
go, well, all I could think of was, okay, if I bet you want to like your hitting coach and believe in your hitting coach and feel very comfortable going to him.
Yeah. The fact that he's like a little younger too, I think is relevant.
There's something to him. He barks in the dugout like he clearly has a voice.
His strategy for like half the guys appears to be, what if you got really jacked?
Yeah.
What if everyone lifted like Addison Barger? Would you guys swing harder?
No, that's the truth of the matter, though, is that a lot of guys get jacked to try to impress women, and then all that ends up happening is you get more respect from the bros.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Those two guys who sit behind home plate who are enormous are trying to get hitting coach jobs.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for me, it's a lot of like, yes, the guys who absolutely have to deliver for you have delivered. But there have been a lot of like all the little pieces matter. You know me. I'm a granular, like my show, I like to do the nitty gritty stuff. Hey, why would you use Edward Bizzardo when Springer's already seen him a bunch of times in the series? Like, the waiver claims and things like that. No, Dickie Lovelady didn't end up mattering. But who did, like Braden Fisher ended up mattering. Mason Fluharty's going to matter against Shohei Ohtani next series. So I reflected a lot on like all the little parts of the journey. Like not everything is going to matter, but a lot of the little stuff that, I don't know, you do a segment and then afterward you're like, people might never think about that again. Like that, I don't know, we got 2 hours to fill every day, but a lot of this stuff does end up mattering. And then from the more like fan and historical perspective, and this is a little bit pandering, but like I do think it and this is more, I think, this is more done by fans than the organization itself, but the kind of connective tissue between eras for the Blue Jays is something the Blue Jays have done really, really well this year. And historically, you see all those 2015, 2016 guys throwing out the first pitch, and like they're not done. They don't throw the first pitch and leave. Like Jose Bautista and Marco Estrada were at the party after the game, and we're a big part of that. Like, that's cool. And like Russell Martin, like all those guys coming back. And it really, I guess what it makes it feel like is there is a bigger connection of like, this is the entire franchise pushing for this World Series. The 2015, 2016 guys were amazing, but didn't get the job all the way done. They had really big moments and it meant a lot to them and the city and the fan base and the country, but they didn't get the job done. And now this is their chance to be a part of these guys getting the job done and going to the World Series. So, I don't know, man. Like the Leafs try to do that stuff too. The Raptors do it, but there's a real connective tissue, and I think they're going to trot out a bunch of the 92, 93 guys in this series. Like Joe Carter's going to throw out one of the first pitches. I'd imagine Cito's back or something like that. But yeah, I think they do. And this is more, again, I think it's more the fans deserve the credit than anything. There is a real kind of connective tissue, right down to the fact that Jeff Hoffman closes out the game and he was traded at the 2015 deadline to like make that run a possibility. So I don't know. It feels like an entire franchise is pulling, not just this year's team.
Well, you know what else though too is you're right that they've done a much better job in terms of maintaining relationships with former players. Because I do remember there was a different time with that. Like Vernon Wells was pretty publicly outspoken about his divided relationship with this team, and I think that they've actually gotten to a much better place now. But yeah, you didn't always necessarily feel that. But this franchise, just as you're talking about it, they kind of had the perfect, like 2015 was so big because it was this, hey, everybody's sort of back in. You know what I mean? Like if you're
Yeah.
a fan who watched 93 and you got to experience it, like Ennis was talking to me about this yesterday, how that ignited his love of sport.
Well,
That
he's so much
ignited,
older than us.
yes, he's way older than us. He's ancient. He's a bag of bones, dusty old bones, full of green dust. He he was ignited by this. And there's obviously fans who are older than him that got to see those memories and have those moments. And then 2015 comes along, it kind of rekindles that for the large portion of that group, but also gives it to a lot of new fans. And when you go down to the ballpark, one of the cool things about it is that like you see Joe Carter jerseys, right? You see a lot of people wearing 93 J stuff, a lot of vintage attire as well. There's some Roy Halladay stuff in there because it's like, yeah, Halladay and Delgado had some, like they resonated with the fan bases.
Also, who else's jersey are you going to buy in that era?
Yeah, but
right?
that's what I'm saying
Yeah.
is like by the time 2015 came along, like what you see still, I would say the majority of the jerseys that are there, it's almost a 50-50 split between the 2015 era and the guys now and the
Mhm.
Bobichettes and the Guerrero Juniors. And there's a really cool mix in that stadium that we probably don't talk about enough, which is the fan base is very unified across a lot of different age groups.
Mhm.
Kids love the Blue Jays, grandparents love the Blue Jays. They've been around like in a kind of perfect segment of time where everybody's got a Blue Jay memory that's alive and watching this team. And with the Leafs, like you think about that stuff, it's like it hasn't been accessible so long for a lot of younger fans. So when they do go to a game, it's like it's a smaller pocket of young people that are at these hockey games. That now you get like the youthful rejuvenation of a fan base that's inside the stadium, having fun, having drinks, and then also still like older people who are really deeply appreciative of the moment because they know how infrequent this has been and what you kind of have to do to crystallize these moments. Like it's an awesome atmosphere outside of just standing up and what they do on the Jumbotron and the drinks that they're serving.
Yeah, and like 32 years is not that long to go without a World Series. Like the Mariners still haven't been to one.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry to pick on them or
Yeah,
whatever,
but
but
that's why I felt, by the way, kind of bad for Mariners fans when people were doing all the like sending me the videos of their radio calls. I was like, I liked this for the Yankees.
yeah,
It's a little different when you do this with teams like the Guardians and the Mariners and
Yeah.
like, you know, the teams
it's
that have
punching
had-
down.
Yeah, it really is. It
Yeah.
feels kind of ugly. It feels like what Yankees fans
Yeah.
would have done to us. If,
Do that to the Dodgers fans.
Yes,
If-
100%.
because they've only been Dodgers fans for like an hour and a half.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
But yeah, the other thing. So like timeline wise, it's a good point. And like 9 years ago is not that long ago, but it's long enough ago that like those guys still hold a bit of, I guess, like short term nostalgia. And the way it is like if you know, Ennis isn't actually that old, but it's like, oh, if your memories are 92, 93, and that's what you're talking about right now, it's like, okay, grandpa. And then we're talking about 2015, 2016. We get hit with the okay unk.
Yeah.
And then now is, you know,
we are Unk now.
yeah. And like, I don't know, heading into the playoffs, like one of the things that I was thinking about a lot is like, okay, I was too young for 92, 93. Like I was alive, but I was not locked in on baseball. I was like a toddler and I was a hockey kid. So
Yeah, no
I
idea.
have nothing from 92, 93.
Yep.
2015, 2016, I have a lot of core memories. I was in the industry, but I wasn't covering the Blue Jays. So I was doing my Raptors freelance stuff in Raptors Republic, but all those Jays games were as a fan, but I had friends of me, like Jonah Birnbaum and I watched the bat
Yep.
flip together and you know, his roommate at the time who now works for the Blue
No,
Jays.
you made it's the 2015 16 runs in terms of some of your friends. You can kind of put them down to a lot of people that are our age.
Yeah.
As almost like a second college in terms of creating.
and like I'm
some of your
new-ish
friendships.
to the city. Like I had been here a couple years, but like you haven't built any of those memories yet. So you know, wild card game with my friend Heyman's from home, and like there was a picture of me where I do not look sober, celebrating that home run. So I don't know. I thought a lot about like what are those core memories going to be for people this time around,
Mhm.
and I think we got the answer to one of those the other day.
Yeah.
That George Springer, like obviously, like everyone is going to be, oh yeah, the ALDS game 1, game 2, that's against the Yankees. Vlad has these huge moments; those are cool. But the Springer home run is going to be like the bat flip game, where if you actually believed everyone who said that they were at that game, Rogers Center held 500,000 people for the bat flip game, because like more people say they were at the bat flip game than could have been at the bat flip game. I think that's going to be the case for the Springer home run too, where it's not quite as he didn't flip the bat. It wasn't after a 35-minute inning of absolute nonsense against a team they genuinely hated. But that's going to be a really cool one. So I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about that stuff of like obviously trying to stay in the moment and enjoy this, but also like, oh shoot, that's the one. That's the one people are like. George Springer is going to be coming on the JD Bunkis podcast in 2035 when the Blue Jays, punch a wild card ticket when there's like 18 wild card teams each year. And you're like, yeah, George, can we talk about the Game 7 home run?
I can't wait to do it. You don't know what that meant to me.
Yeah.
You go, yeah, I've heard that from.
How bad did it hurt when you on one knee when you were hopping down the first base slide?
You know what is kind of cool too with this run is when I went to all those games in 15 and 16, up until now, so I sold my tickets to the bat flip game. It's kind of
Okay.
like I decided I was with 4 other really good friends. I couldn't decide who I was going to give the other ticket to, so just decided to sell, and we went to a bar and we watched it. And now it's a lucky bar that we go to before going to the games. But I was at the Edwin the Edwin walk-off. But outside of that, I was looking at my like playoff record. Those other runs, they lost a lot of games at home.
Dude, I went to game.
Yeah.
I went to the first game
Yes.
that they had in the playoffs in
That's
decades
insane.
and decades,
The
and it was
force field.
awful.
Yeah, the force field game with
Yeah.
the extra innings. Wait, was that 2?
No,
One more-
game 1 was David Price, and it just didn't go well right
Yes.
from the jump.
Okay, right. Yeah, but game 2 I went to, and it was the Edwin hit a ball to center field, and I thought it was gone for a walk-off, went to extra innings, and it basically looked like it hit a force field, died, and they end up losing that game. I went to R.A. Dickey, getting smashed up, touched up. Went to those Guardians games where it was
even
one
like,
win, but
think of the bat flip game is
Yeah.
like they didn't win a game at home until the decisive game. Like
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
So
they dropped everything.
one of the other cool things about this run is that people have been able to go watch 2 Yankees games where it's pandemonium and celebration, and now you get a couple of games against the Mariners, which originally started with 2 losses.
Yeah,
but
they're
you get-
4-2 at home.
But that's it. You've gotten 4 home wins. And yeah, I'm lucky enough to be at all those. That's kind of changed my ledger in terms of the record at home.
There you go.
But that's not something like if you were at the bat flip game, you had that. I know what it's like to be in the stadium when things are rocking and going nuts.
Mhm.
If you were at the wild card game against Baltimore, you really have the true understanding of I know what it's like to be in that stadium going nuts.
Yeah.
But now there's 4 others that get added to the
Yeah.
tally. This is actually different than those other runs where most of us were celebrating in bars.
Yeah. The wild card one's so fascinating. I'd be curious your take on this.
The
It's like
best.
the wild card game
Yeah.
it's not as important as the bat flip. The bat
Sure.
flip helped them get to the ALCS, and again,
No, it's number 4.
they hated that team.
Yeah.
There was a lot of emotion in that. George Springer punched a ticket to the World Series, but the one thing that the wild card home run had going for it, and this is something Joe Carter obviously won the World Series. There will never. It's impossible to
No, you
hit a
can't.
bigger
No,
home
Ennis
run.
and I did this yesterday. There's
It's impossible.
You can't do it.
Yeah, like short of a game going to like 18 innings or something like that, and you walk it off. It's
No,
it's
you're-
impossible to top the
you're
Joe Carter
down
one.
by 3 and you hit a grand
Like if
slam.
you're in your backyard as a little kid and
That's all you did.
and you line up a scenario that's the Joe Carter scenario, you're like, that's a little convoluted. Maybe there should only be one runner on base. It's anyway. So the wild card thing that it had going for it, and again, maybe it's because that's the one that I was there at as a fan, and I wasn't at the bat flip, and I was at the Springer one as media. But it's also you don't have to the Springer one after it calms down, everyone is then like, oh, there's 9 outs again.
yeah.
Or it's 6 outs again. And the Edwin one, it's like it's done. You walked it off.
Yes.
A walk off has like a specialness of like there is no other shoe that could possibly
Yes.
drop. Again, it's 4. It's number 4 behind those other ones.
It's clearly 4.
But as a celebration moment, you didn't have to like take the beat to be like, oh yeah, there's work to do still.
For me, it's the clear number 2 in terms of things I've seen live because
Yeah.
I wasn't at bat flip.
Yeah.
You're right in the sense of the party was different. It was basically he hit that ball in the air though, and no one even knew that it was a home run because you just needed the fly ball to catch
Yes.
the
A sac
runner
fly
from
walks
third.
you off.
So as soon as he put the ball in the air, everybody was like, we had some guys beside us that had popcorn, and my kind of like memory of it was just popcorn and beer everywhere,
Hmm.
and hugging McKee and jumping up and down, and then just like
You were at it with McKee, eh?
yeah,
That's awesome.
and it was like a full blown, just everybody losing their minds, and then the chance, and it was fun. It was really fun. The big difference for me though with this is that 2016 team. If people are honest and you were there and you remember it, everybody was bitching and crying about how wild card is in playoffs and this team isn't the same, and they kind of limped to the finish line, and there was not the same excitement in the city, and it was the same thing. So I bought a sheet to the 2016 run thinking I was going to do the same thing in 2015, which is, okay, I'm going to basically sell these to friends and family and not go for the whole run, but I'll have tickets that, because I can afford
You're
this
locked in
this
at
time.
face.
Yes, locked in at face, bought it. It was easier to get then too,
Yes.
by the way.
You buy a 10-game flex pack, I think you got early access.
Yes, whatever. I think I just had gone to enough games or
Okay.
whatever that I had the early access that blah, 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 blah. Who cares? That's not important. People didn't love that team the same way, and they got on board as the playoffs went on. They beat the Rangers, and it was sort of like, oh, right, we love this Toronto Blue Jays
But it was an
team.
encore act.
Yes, but this group that we're seeing now, it really does feel more like 2015, where the fan base cares so much more about this group than any other one that I've ever seen. And even the difference, and this is going to sound harsh as an unk, this Blue Jays team is more likable than the 2015 team. The 2015 team was our jerks.
Yes.
They were our jerks. They were getting it into it with everybody else. It was like Donaldson and Bautista.
Before they cut him, there's a very famous
Yeah.
Danny Valencia sitting along the
Yeah.
thing, chirping another team that we can't repeat on air. But like that
Yeah.
was the whole attitude. So what?
Yeah. So
what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, that was it. They were very adversarial, and that was cool. I'm not I'm not trying to denigrate that whatsoever. But this Blue Jays team, because it's like it is the misfit crew. It is the weirdo squad. It is. They just did this without Bo Bichette and the number one guy they brought in free agency.
Do you want me to wrestling it for you?
Yeah.
2015, they were the heels. Now they're the baby faces.
Yeah, that's it. It's nice to it's fun to cheer for
the
John
tiny,
Cena.
small market Toronto Blue Jays, who
Yeah.
are only fourth in payroll up against the evil giant Dodgers.
Yeah. That is, by the way, a super fun narrative going into this thing of how everyone in America is rooting for the Blue Jays because they all hate the Dodgers and how much they spend. When in reality, it's like the Jays tried to get Juan Soto.
And
the
Shohei.
Jays tried to get Shohei.
Sasaki.
They might have offered Shohei. Well, they did factually offer Shohei more money if you do the real-time dollars versus the future dollars. They tried to get Sasaki.
Yeah.
Like they're the fourth highest payroll in baseball. They look like they're only going to keep spending more. This is why, again, I'll hammer this home every single show is if you are a real Blue Jays fan, you have rocks in your head if you think you want a salary cap. Like if you've looked at what the Toronto Maple Leafs have done and what the Raptors are right now, which, by the way, we're going to get into that preview still in a second here.
Sure.
God, we got to do that. You do not want a cap. Anyways, subscribe to this podcast, leave 5 stars, do all those things. Reach out to me anytime on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis. I definitely want reflections today. I still am trying to go through the DMs. Quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll do some Raptors season preview. All right, Raptors season starts tonight, and apparently the game on Friday is being moved. Big time Super Sports Friday. Leafs play, Raptors play, Blue Jays play, and everybody will be focused on only one of those teams.
Yeah. Did the Seahawks win on Monday, by the way?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. Because I know it was like Monday was like a big Seattle thing because they had the cracking point too and Seahawks on Monday Night Football. But
they dominated.
I'm so like not locked in on football right now that I have forgot to set a fantasy lineup twice, which is very unlike me. And I only got to watch the Jags embarrass themselves this week because it was the 9:30 Wembley game.
I would like to tell you this. I am still locked on everything, all right?
Yeah.
Nothing's getting by me. I'm still locked on football, and when I'm back to 2 hours when the Blue Jays are done, don't worry. You boys
Yeah,
stay
but you're
locked.
always locked in on
Boys
everything.
staying locked.
It's the hardest working man in the building.
It's not work when you love it. Okay, so Raptors.
Yeah.
Season starts tonight. Very easy in terms of the way I'm going to set this up. Biggest story of the season to you is what?
Yeah, I think it's figuring out who the odd piece out is. And I don't want to set the season up in like a negative way.
That's an interesting way to put it, though.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's not the way I have it.
Something is going to give
Yeah.
in this long-term build. It's going to be fun. They're going to be better than they have been the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They're actually going to be trying to win. So outside of that first 10 games of the schedule where it's really tough and they already have injuries and stuff like that, they're going to be trying to win. You're going to be evaluating this team like a real team. You're not going to be doing it like the last year and a half where it's kid gloves and everything's development and they're starting Colin Castleton and Orlando Robinson and stuff like
They
that.
have been throwing around the word development a little too much.
A little too much for
Yeah,
year 3
yeah.
of the build and year 5 of Scotty Barnes.
Yeah.
Scotty Barnes has a max contract now.
Yeah.
RJ Barrett's on the deal he's on. Emmanuel Quickly's on the deal he's on. Brandon Ingram's on the deal he's on.
I want to hear development with Colin Murray Boyles. I don't
Yes.
want to hear about and I get it. Like
Jacoby
life's
Walter,
a
sure.
journey, and everyone should
Yeah.
continue to get better. But
Yeah, but Grady Dick is in the pay me year. Year 4 as a rookie scale, or his 4th year option got picked up for next year. This summer is when you get the extension. So not to frame what'll be a positive step forward as a season and a more fun season as a negative, but you and I were going through the spreadsheets before we came on. They're over the tax, and they're going to be over the tax to be a high play-in to low non-play-in team. I have them for 44 wins, which would have them 6th or 7th in the East. You are not paying the luxury tax to be a 6-7 seed in the Eastern Conference. Easy enough to get out of it this year. You dump Ochai for a second at the deadline or something like that, and you're out. But long-term, Jakob Poeltl's got his extension. IQ's contract and Brandon Ingram's contract are flat, but we don't know if the cap's going to keep going at the 10% level it's been going and things like that. There is a crunch, and one of these core pieces is not going to be a part of the core long-term because they'll just be too inflexible. And on court, we don't know that all the pieces fit. There is not a ton of spacing. The Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl pick and roll has never really developed the way you'd want. Emmanuel Quickly, the way they've used him in the preseason at least, looks like he's going to be like kind of a point guard, but they're really going to try to utilize how much value he can provide off the ball and things like that.
It's not a point guard.
So I think this year is about figuring out, yes, they're going to be better. Yes, it's going to be fun, but something will have to give with that. Like, I would be shocked if it's the same starting 5 next year. I'd be shocked if it's the same starting 5 on July 8th. So I think that's kind of what this year is about. Who takes the steps, who can figure out the chemistry, and who ends up being the valve that lets you continue to build and continue to improve without being a crazy level tax team a year from now.
So I got to tell you, the reason why I really think it's interesting how you framed it is because I think most of us are working under the assumption that the odd man out is the guy that just didn't get a contract extension in a window where he was, if he's a wanted piece, is getting a contract extension. The guy that has already been involved in how many trade rumors at this point would you set the over under it? Like 45 and a half?
Yeah. Like, I know, like, Trade NBA, which is the new trade machine, occasionally has the like trending player thing to see who's being thrown in. I would love the data for like, since RJ Barrett got to Toronto, is he the most trade machined guy?
Yeah. But so the way that I had it is way more simplistic, which is just how does Barnes fit with Ingram and what does the ceiling look like with the two of them? And like, they're both tied in the same way to me, in the sense of, For Scotty Barnes, I think that most people who look at it rationally do not see a guy who is going to be a 1A championship level player, carry the team level player. The scoring efficiency numbers, the shooting efficiency numbers are just not high enough for a league that is centered around scoring for me, that I think, okay, he's going to have a package that works for dominating postseason games. There's things I like about Barnes' game. There's things I like about Brandon Ingram's game, but neither of them to me has ever looked like a guy that, again, even with the two of them together, that the ceiling is these two could lead a team to a championship. They also both like to have the ball in similar spots. Brandon Ingram isn't the catch and shoot 3-point shooter that people think he is. He's not Rip Hamilton.
He could be.
He's not Rip Hamilton running in motion constantly and going to be working off of Scotty Barnes. I think the fit for those of us that have watched Brandon Ingram play and Scotty Barnes play is going to be fairly interesting. And if it looks awkward for a full season, are they going to look at that and say, well, it's just year 1 and it's no big deal? Or do they start to think about more drastic measures in terms of the roster construction? Like, I appreciate what you're saying in terms of trying to find the odd man out, but it does feel so obviously RJ that it's difficult for me to envision a scenario where, like, the Ingram contract's not getting moved. Scotty Barnes probably isn't getting moved. I don't think Quickly is movable at this point.
It's the NBA. Everyone's movable.
I guess, but when you talk about that cap crunch, if you look around the league right now, there's not a bunch of teams that are flush with salary cap space. People are dumping all over. And so the idea that the Raps could just kind of, not no pun intended, quickly move off of him, eh, I'm suspicious of
It's
that.
also he's the one guy who can shoot threes. So even if
Sure.
you don't like him and you don't like the contract,
Yeah.
in terms of how all the pieces fit offensively, he's an easy, like you talk about the Ingram Barnes fit. They're already doing stuff with IQ as like a secondary screener in Barnes Ingram stuff, and then he pops out. So like, not Spain, like not the screener stuff directly, but they're using him in a lot of ways, like where he'll be a screener and then flare out so that you can't handle the Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram stuff the way you would on paper if it was just them. But I'm with you. It's like I went back and Saturday the Jays were off, so I caught up on the preseason games I hadn't seen, and I went back and I read some of the Ingram stuff that I wrote after the trade acquisition last year because it all still holds. He didn't play any games, so we don't know. And yeah, I had written, maybe this is why I didn't choose it, is like I feel like I already did the Ingram Barnes. I did my Ingram Barnes work stuff after the deadline last year.
Nothing has changed.
But yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Barnes has to shoot more threes. Or sorry, not Barnes. Ingram has to shoot more threes. Barnes has to not operate in some of those Ingram spots as much. And it's a huge, and maybe this is a related thing, is like we're going to find a lot out about Darko too, because he is, installed a lot of cool principles offensively over the last 2 years that help a team that isn't that good be a little bit better. Create these small advantages and turn a small advantage into a slightly bigger one, because you don't have a guy who can just go create an advantage himself the way that the top players in basketball can. But now you've got guys who are making money, who aren't rookies, who, the development style of coaching and stuff like that. And you've got expectations. So if the offense doesn't work and you're clunking around at the number 20 offense after 20, 25 games, there's going to be a little bit more pressure to figure that stuff out. And I don't know that when you have a veteran already paid starting five, is there like, oh, hey, we're just going to run a delay offense and like run a lot through Jakob at the elbows and stuff like that. I don't know if that has as much runway if this offense doesn't get out to a great start with all these pieces.
I guess the reason too why that I'm putting it down to like the Barnes Ingram fit.
No, it's the right pick.
No, but it kind of. But I think we know what the floor is of this team. It's kind of, even if they end up being injured and it doesn't go well, the Eastern Conference is so watered down, and the NBA, frankly, at large, is watered down to the point where I would be genuinely shocked if the Raptors were not in a play-in game this year.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised. A lot has to go wrong.
So I think that is the floor. To me, what this season is going to be about is trying to determine if the ceiling is higher than what it looks like on paper. And those two guys are at the center of that. And so that brings me to kind of question number 2, which is such a boring answer, but it's also factual with this handful of players, which is health. And not just health in terms of, hey, can you win these regular season games, but health in terms of removing it as an excuse factor and having it become an actual reason why you can't continue forward with the group that you have. Last 2 seasons, Quickly has missed 63 games. Jakob Poeltl has missed 57 games. Barnes has missed 39. Ingram has missed a full year, 82. And RJ Barrett has missed 48. Obviously, there are some rest games in there. There's some manipulating of getting guys back healthy because you want to be able to tank. You haven't been in a position where you're doing anything other than trying to get in the lottery. But those are your 5 most important players, and that is a crap ton of games, okay? That is a significant amount of time that you are missing. The Ingram part where people go, if healthy, that's something with this team that this year, if that's a part of the conversation, if we're doing, whoa, they're so good if healthy, I don't view that as an excuse when you've assembled a group that has that track record in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Here's a stat for you. So obviously that fivesome has played 0 minutes together.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram has not played. Even in the preseason, they didn't get many reps together. I think there was only 1 game where the whole starting 5 was together in the preseason. Even the 4 of them, though, take Ingram out, they haven't even played 400 minutes together. And they've been on the roster for over a season and a half now. Fewer than 400 minutes. When you look at, I looked at, well, what if even like 2 or 3 of them are on the court together? There's still not that many minutes. And the bulk of them are with Grady Dick and Gary Trent and Davion Mitchell as the extra guys. So like with guys who aren't around, and clearly if you have, those are not, winning lineups where you're really trying. So even if you give it some like, oh, they played together and they staggered the lineups or whatever, like there's a reason late last year when they sacked guys out, they were like Quickly and Barnes have to play the same game. And Barrett and Poeltl can sit out together, but you don't want to like Quickly and Bear played together in New York. Barnes and Pirtle are not like they're not an obvious offensive pairing, even though that's your best defensive look. Like they were very intentional of like IQ and Barnes have to play together. They have to get some reps together. They're the 1-4 pick and roll, and they have negative chemistry until late last year. So yeah, this is a very real thing for a team that has been together a while and they're still a young team, but they're not like everyone in the starting lineup is on their big contract now, and they have like even a year and a half in like no reps together.
I got to tell you, the more prep I put into this team, because you do look at just the names on paper and some of the guys that took a step last year, right? Like Ochai, like Grady Dick had some real flashes last season of wow, he's improved. He's way better off the dribble than he was in year one, and you're hopeful that it's another year where he continues to progress as an offensive player. But you look at a lot of the different variables that are there, whether or not it's fit, whether or not it's health, whether or not it's like this is the other one, which is last season they were 28th in attempts on 3-pointers. Which makes them 29th in makes. That's not going to shock anybody that
No.
you take the 28th amount of threes and you're not a great 3-point shooting team and that you end up 29th in makes. I actually think that Darko has done a pretty good job, all things considered, in terms of keeping these, like probably too good of a job in terms of the tank, of keeping guys engaged and having ball movement and feeling as though there really does seem to be a culture that he is trying to instill with the younger players,
it's real.
and it seems to be resonating, which I was very doubtful of when he first came in and he did the cringy Scotty Barnes is going to be the face of the NBA thing, and you went, oh God, this is not. You feel like a stopgap guy. He doesn't feel that way to me anymore. There's some positivity around the idea that, hey, you're going to be watching competitive basketball as opposed to the last couple of seasons. There isn't the same overarching narrative that there was with the end of the Siakam, Fred, Powell, of just, they're going to have to really move a lot of these core pieces out and go with a full pivot. But it's very tough for me to look at this group of players and the way that they all play. And again, the starting five has talent, and think with modern offenses and modern basketball that they are going to be able to score enough to really show people that there is a ceiling to this team that goes beyond. They could be a middle of the pack Eastern Conference team that's maybe the tough out in the first round and gets a playoff victory. But if they do make it to the second round, is looking like kind of an easy out.
Yeah, and look, they're going to play a hard style, and they're going to be annoying to play against. That's going to be a trademark of theirs, I think. But yeah, you have to figure out, the ceiling. How do they, like we established the floors plan. I have them for 44 wins.
I think that's about
cool.
right. Yeah.
They're a fun team. They have a lot of good basketball players. Like if you are the type of fan that watches all 82 games, you're really going to enjoy this year.
Yeah,
they are going to play good, fun
better.
basketball. Yeah. But yeah, the path to how do they become a 50-win team, a 55-win team, that's still a pretty big unknown. And it's a lot of like I get it. Scotty Barnes could be an all-NBA player this year. I don't think that is entirely off the table, even though he had a bit of a rough preseason. But all 30 teams in the NBA are looking at, well, let's say 24 teams in the NBA are looking at what they have. It's like, well, if this guy takes a jump, it's like, you're okay. Everyone can think that. You got to actually have the guy take the jump. The Rockets are a great example last night. So I watched the Rockets Thunder double overtime game, and they, in a double OT game, they only took 39 shots, or 39 three-pointers. If they only took 39 shots, they would have lost by a lot.
I was going to say that would be pretty unprecedented.
Yes, they hit them all. They were all 8-pointers.
It's a lot of turnovers.
Yes, but like they have KD, who operates in the mid-range. They have Şengün, who you really operate a ton of. Like, they went bully ball last night, and they're down Fred VanVleet, who's their biggest three-point shooter. So 39 is a low number of threes for a double OT game. And that team, first of all, they lost the game. But you were only able to do that because you are a bully team that's so effective at operating through the post and in the mid-range. If you want to say, hey, best case example for the Raptors, Scotty Barnes is operating in that Şengün role. Brandon Ingram fills the KD role. Cool. Şengün still went 5 of 8 on threes. Like, he was their big 3-point bomber. And some of those are like the Marc Gasol trail and transition stuff. But
how many
also,
games this season do you think Scotty Barnes is going to hit 5 threes?
3 or 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the right line. I was going to set the line at 2.5.
Yeah. So even like the best defensive team from last year, or I guess the second best defensive team to the Thunder, who took the defending champs to double overtime, and yes, they're down Fred VanVleet, but even they still got up 43s. It's and Şengün fired a bunch of them. So you can't take 25 threes in a game. This is why like the talking point in camp, and I wasn't there, but like reading the quotes and watching the YouTubes and stuff, quickly getting up 10 threes a game is going to be a talking point. Brandon Ingram's 3-point volume is going to have to look more like it did in that 20 games last year when he was taking 6 or 7 a game than it has been historically when he is the true number one in an offense and things like that. And you really got to hope Grady Dick has something for you off the bench, because even the guys you like off the bench are not like 3-point gunners. Like none of the Jamison Battle, I guess, but I think Jamison Battle's not in the rotation to start the year. So like Jamal Shed, cool player, not a 3-point shooter yet. Jacoby Walter, really cool player. Probably the guy who upped his stock with me the most last year, and all the extra time guys got. Not a 3-point gunner yet. So you got to find that somewhere.
No, fun slasher.
Yeah. I like him a lot. But
yeah, but 3-point shooter, he is not.
No.
And he's one of those guys, too, where they do the projections of how good of a 3-point shooter you can be in the league based on what you do at the free throw line in college more than what you do at the 3-point line in college.
Because you only take like 100 attempts.
Yeah. And he is not a good free throw shooter from college.
Yes. What did he shoot last year on free throws? He shot 80% last year, but he only took like 75 free throws, 100 free throws or something like that.
It's all right. Better at the NBA level. Your free throw shooting can go up, though, in the NBA level. It's usually just a marker of what your threes end up being. Again, not saying that it can't happen, but yeah, they really are just a group, when I look at them, of a lot of talented players, a lot of good guys who, in a vacuum, individually, like even the moves they make, like it's getting Brandon Ingram for the price that they got him at. I don't view that as some screw up for them. I totally,
trade value-wise, the contract you can quibble with, but like Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk and the lowest of the firsts you held.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I get why people look at that trade and say, how do you not do that? You obviously do that. Look at the talent you're injecting onto your roster. What I think is, again, the most interesting thing with this team is all of them together, talent, nice vacuum adds. Looking at it as a group, the health, the fit, the 3-point shooting. Questions. A lot of questions that really need to be answered, and I'm not really sure how it's going to happen. And interestingly enough, when you're talking about the release valve in terms of how to change this roster, when I was really thinking about it in terms of Raptors trades and something that they could do to really shake up their roster, I do look at Grady Dick's name and go, man, like kind of a semi-interesting trade piece. And then yet, here you are, 28th in attempts for 3-point shots, and it feels very strange to be thinking like, well, is he going to be one of the guys that you end up removing, because where are his minutes coming from consistently enough?
And can he do enough other things?
Exactly, where it's going to fit with the group. Like, how are you factoring in Colin Murray Boyles' minutes, another guy who, not a shooter, someone who profiles probably closer to Scotty Barnes in terms of just like playmaker who you want to get inside. And
this is real good defensively though. He's even the preseason tape was cool on it. But the fit stuff. This is the thing, and this is how you build a good team. The path, and maybe I should have framed it as this. Maybe we both should have framed it as this. As the story this year is like, is there, by the end of the season when we're doing the show in April, is it clear what the path to being great is? That's the path to being good is there.
Yeah. You know, instead of isolating it down to 2 players, really expanding it to the entire team in terms of, what are the pieces that make it feel like that is clear and obvious as to how you get better from a ceiling standpoint? Like, do the 3-point shots continue to be debilitating in terms of how you get to an offensive ceiling that you likely need to be at? Is your defense good enough where it actually does feel like it's sustainable for you to get into rock fights with teams and come out on top more consistently than not? It almost feels like when you and I are having the play-in conversation, like, okay, if they end up in a play-in spot, but it's the 7, or actually supersede that and end up like 5-6 somehow, you're feeling way better about the path, because then it is like, okay, maybe little development tweaks.
One small trade, one small jump.
One small trade, one small jump actually lands you into the top 3.
The Pacers path.
Yes, as you're looking forward. And the closer you finish to the bottom of that play-in group, the more you're going to be feeling like, nah, they can't stay healthy enough. They can't shoot well enough. The pieces don't fit well another.
5 extra wins feel huge.
Yeah, exactly. That this 5 little window is actually going to determine how major it needs to come. Change needs to come for this team. Anyway, subscribe to the podcast, leave 5 stars, do all those things. Spotify and on Apple. You can reach out anytime on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis. I always appreciate it. I always try to go through the messages. And we will see you tomorrow for actual World Series preview time.